Good evening, it's the 15th of March and here's your news for today. This is just the news. There's no opinion, there's no shouting, there's no debate. It's only the information. It's exactly how we like to give you the news every night. So let's get started. In our first story, of course, the case of the explosives found outside of Mukesh Ambani's home gets more and more murkier. Now, suspended police officer Sachin Vaze has filed a habeas corpus petition in the Bombay High Court challenging his arrest by the NIA, arguing that process was not followed, which is why his arrest is illegal. Remember, he is the prime accused in the case of placing an explosive-laden SUV outside the Ambani residence last month. Also, the owner of that SUV, Mansukh Hiren's body was discovered in a creek in Mumbai on the 5th of March. Sachin Vaze is the prime accused in that case as well. Now, according to the petition filed by his brother before the court, Vaze, who's 49, has claimed to be made a scapegoat by certain political powers. Now, he's been remanded to custody after he was arrested this weekend until the 25th of March. The Mumbai police, which had initially just transferred him out of the crime branch, has now suspended him as well. The Indian Express has also reported, based on source-based information the Express has got from the NIA that's investigating this case, that apparently the NIA has traced a white Innova which was tailing the SUV in question until it reached Mukesh Ambani's home. According to the NIA, that white Innova belonged to the Mumbai police, specifically the branch that was headed by Vaze at the time. Now, this has also taken on a political angle. The BJP has accused the Maharashtra government and the Shiv Sena of supporting and shielding Sachin Vaze. On the other hand, the Sena has continued to back him and alleged that he was arrested because he was the one who arrested Arnab Goswami and he has been on the hit list of the BJP and the centre. According to the Quint, the NCP Supremo Sharad Pawar and Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray on Monday met on this particular case as well to decide further action. It's also important to note that this is not the first time that Sachin Vaze has been suspended from the Mumbai police. 16 years ago, he was one of the 4 policemen accused of a case of death in custody, and that case apparently is still on in the High Court. He was suspended for 16 years. He was out of the force. He was reinstated last year. It's also reported in various newspapers, including the Indian Express, that he was a member of the Shiv Sena during that period of suspension. Moving on to other news right now, bank unions have announced a nationwide strike. These are bank unions of public sector banks for 2 days, today and tomorrow, to protest the privatization of public sector banks and the retrograde banking reforms. Remember, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in the budget announced that banks would be privatized. 2 public sector banks are part of the government's disinvestment plan to raise 1.75 lakh crore rupees. The United Forum for Bank Unions, an umbrella body of 9 bank employee unions, have announced the strike on the 15th and the 16th of March. Over 10 lakh bank employees will participate in that strike. Now, apart from this, on the 17th of March, 4 general insurance company employees will go on strike, and on the 18th, the unions of the LIC will go on strike as well. We understand that ATMs will remain functional, but deposits, withdrawals, check clearance and loan approval processes and services will be affected over the next 2 days. Maharashtra also in the news for having really bad COVID numbers right now. Maharashtra recorded 16,620 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours and 20 deaths as well. Night curfew has now been imposed in Latur between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. but weekly markets will remain shut until the 31st of March. Remember, the city of Nagpur in Maharashtra is the first city to impose a strict lockdown, the kind that we had witnessed last year that was nationwide. That stricter lockdown has now been imposed in Nagpur, which is the first of all cities in the country to go back into lockdown. There's a keen eye right now from the centre and the Maharashtra government watching these numbers very carefully. Also, according to the ANI, the Madhya Pradesh government on Sunday has directed its districts bordering Maharashtra to identify people coming in from Maharashtra and advise them on a week-long quarantine. Travelers will have to undergo thermal screening when they cross the border into Madhya Pradesh, and 7 days of mandatory quarantine. Administrations of Bhopal, Indore and 12 other districts have been asked to exercise extra caution. On Thursday, a 14-year-old Muslim boy was thrashed for entering a temple and drinking water in Uttar Pradesh's Ghaziabad. The video of the assault caused outrage online. It showed the boy being slapped and repeatedly kicked in the genitals. The police have now arrested 2 men. Main accused, Shriringi Nathan Yadav and Shivanandan, who was allegedly filming the assault. Apparently, the temple in question has a board outside which reads that this temple is a holy place for Hindus and Muslims are forbidden to enter. Eyewitnesses say that was, what the altercation was about. An FIR has been filed against the 2 individuals for intention to insult and provoke peace, statements conducive to public mischief, causing hurt and assault. In other news, a month after she was arrested by the Delhi police on the 13th of February for sedition, 22-year-old climate change activist Disha Ravi has come on record for the first time and spoken about her ordeal. She's put a private statement up on her social media. In the 4-page statement, she talks about not being represented in court. She says, and I quote, "As I stood in the courtroom, desperately searching for my lawyers, I came to terms with the fact that I would have to defend myself. I had no idea whether there was legal assistance available. So when the judge asked me if I had anything to say, I decided to speak my mind. Before I knew it, I was sent to 5 days of police custody." End quote. She's also talked about the media trial that was conducted in her case, and she said her actions were pronounced guilty not by a court of law, but on flat screens by seekers of TRP. Disha Ravi was granted bail on the 23rd of February. An update on the West Bengal elections right now. TMC on Monday appointed former Union Minister Yashwant Sinha as their party's vice president and also inducted him into the National Working Committee. Now, this comes after Sinha joined Mamata Banerjee-led TMC on the 13th of March ahead of the West Bengal polls. The Union former finance minister and former BJP leader, according to reports, said the attack on Mamata Banerjee in Nandigram was the tipping point that led to him joining the TMC. Let's take a look now at some news coming in from the world of business. IT firm Tech Mahindra has acquired 70% stake in Ireland-based Perrigot Asset Holdings, a pharmaceutical packaging provider, for nearly $25 million. The company also plans to buy out the remaining 30% over the next 4 years at a valuation linked to the financial performance of the company. According to reports, Tech Mahindra said the acquisition will help them augment expertise in the global pharmaceutical, healthcare and life sciences sectors. The acquisition is part of Tech Mahindra's long-term plan to build presence in key markets like Ireland, Germany, the US, India, with enhanced global delivery. Now taking a look at news coming in from the international world. Chinese capital Beijing was choking on sand and dust on Monday as the city faced its worst sandstorm in nearly a decade. Pictures from Beijing show buildings and vehicles covered in thick haze. Air quality indexes recorded hazardous ratings as authorities advised the 21.7 million residents of the city to stay indoors. Beijing measured a maximum 655 micrograms per cubic meter on Monday in air quality. The World Health Organization considers anything above 25 to be unsafe, and Beijing was at 655. According to the Chinese state-run outlet The Paper, the sandstorm originated in Mongolia, where 6 people have died and 81 are missing. News from Sri Lanka. According to Reuters, Sri Lanka will soon ban burqas and shut over 1,000 Islamic schools for national security concerns affecting the country's Muslim minority population. Now, Sri Lanka has a Muslim minority population of about 9.7%. The country's public security minister, Sarath Veerasekara, has said that in our early days, Muslim women and girls never wore burqa. It is a sign of religious extremism. That came out recently. We are definitely going to ban it. End quote. Sri Lanka had previously banned the burqa in 2019 after a series of deadly blasts on Easter Sunday killed over 250 people and injured 500 people in churches and in hotels. News from Myanmar now. Again, according to Reuters, Myanmar security forces fired on pro-democracy protesters on Monday, killing 6 people. This comes a day after dozens of protesters were shot dead and when attackers torched several Chinese-financed factories in the city of Yangon. China's Global Times newspaper said 32 factories in which China had invested were vandalized by vicious attacks that caused damage of $37 million and injured 2 Chinese employees. Its embassy has urged the Myanmar's generals to stop the violence immediately. Let's take a look at news from the world of science and technology. NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory has shared a picture of a massive black hole named Sagittarius A. The space agency has said, and I quote, "The center of our Milky Way galaxy contains exotic collections of objects, gas, clouds, stars, and of course, Sagittarius A supermassive black hole weighing 4 million times the mass of our sun." This was incidentally uploaded on Instagram. Let's take a look at news coming in from the sports world. The captain of the Indian men's cricket team, Virat Kohli, smashed an unbeaten 73 of 49 deliveries to help India beat England in the second T20 international on Sunday. He's become the first ever batsman to reach 3,000 runs in T20 internationals. Adding another feather to his cap, he is also the fastest captain to reach 12,000 runs in international cricket and in just 226 innings. Let's leave you with some positive news now before we wrap up for the day. In Delhi, in a bid to reduce air pollution and pave way for more electric vehicles, the South Delhi Municipal Corporation has begun setting up electric charging docks for electric vehicles in various parts of the city. 18 stations being prepared in Greater Kailash, Aurobindo Place, Nehru Place and South Extension Part 2. The Deputy Commissioner of the SDMC, Prem Shankar Jha, has said the public sector firm EESL is setting up 43 stations, out of which 18 have been readied. BECIL will put up 20 stations, and Telecommunications Consultant Limited of India is looking to put up another 50, for which they have applied. Now, this is really important because people normally who own electric cars have to charge it at home and can only drive it for a certain distance before it needs to be charged again. With more charging docks appearing around the city, they'll be able to refuel on the go. This is definitely good news. In another piece of news coming in from the Kerala High Court, the court ruled that transgender people can be admitted into the National Cadet Corps, so that's the NCC. A petition was filed by Hina Hanifa challenging Section 6 of the NCC Act 1948, which effectively allowed for either males or females to enroll in the NCC. Hanifa applied for entry basis her gender, which she identifies as, is in the female category, but the NCC rejected her. The court has now also directed the centre to amend the enrolment criteria for the NCC to issue guidelines for the entry of transgender people within the next 6 months. Well, that's a wrap on the news from us this evening. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to leave us some feedback on how we can improve this for you, and also I ask you to please share this video with anyone you feel might find this information useful. Ask more people, friends and family to follow this bulletin as well. Thank you for watching. Good night.